Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya, Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya.
Yeah, that was Chief Terrence Monahan. My only concern about that was the lack of social distancing. I love the hug, but we're still in the COVID area. I just wish that they were wearing masks, maybe some gloves, and a little, maybe an arm bump or something.
Shut up, Karen. Obviously, 2020 has been largely about control through the use of negative emotional priming, but I just wanted to point out a good example of how positive emotional priming can be used to reinforce authority and authoritarianism. So yesterday we were presented with the story of the kneeling cops who were taking a knee in solidarity with the protesters. Of course, it was all over the mainstream media, and as per usual, all the same NPCs were in the comments section talking about, oh my god, this is the kind of leadership we need, and if only these types of people were in authority, and this always happens, and this is the reaction that they're trying to get. It's a manufactured reaction. This is exactly the point of a cop kneeling. The main character in this play was this police chief from the NYPD named Terrence Monahan, and he's literally the highest ranking uniformed member of the NYPD. So let's just start with that. How ironic is it that these people who think that the police are just systemically hunting down and killing black people just for no fucking reason, and are just completely out of control and corrupt to the core, and then you throw them this little doggy treat of the highest ranking police chief of the most corrupt police department in the country. You guys say we need people like this in positions of authority. This dude is in a position of authority, a high level of authority, and yet New York is just as fucked as it ever has been, and he waited over a week to start kneeling, and all he has to do is take a knee, and it's, oh my god, this guy's amazing, this guy's the new MLK or Gandhi. Like, that's just pure cognitive dissonance. That's textbook cognitive dissonance. The police are not to be trusted. They kill people for no reason. They're all racist. The whole system is corrupt. But, oh, he took a knee, so this guy's on our side. Another pretty messed up irony is that a lot of liberals would hate me for this video, even though it actually reinforces their narrative that cops are fucked up and corrupt and don't actually care about people. But it hits them in the ego, because if I'm right, then they have to examine the fact that they got played and they got fooled, and they'd rather protect their ego than seek the truth and actually oppose the system that they say they're trying to oppose. And that's not just liberals. Trump supporters do this shit all the time too. It's so weak. While I was scrolling through all the sycophantic congratulatory comments below the video, I finally came across one that showed his name, and all I did was just highlight his name and do a Google search on it, and then pulled up Wikipedia. So right here, Terrence Monahan. He's been a career police officer in the NYPD since longer than I've been alive, and he's now the highest ranking uniformed officer in New York City. And let's see about his credentials. He's an expert in crowd control. That's a red flag right there. What he's doing is crowd control. It's just a positive reinforcement style of crowd control rather than cracking heads. Even within the official narrative of the official news coverage of this event, they talk about how he addressed the crowd and took a knee after the situation was getting tense and after there was violence against police officers. So again, this was crowd control. This wasn't some outpouring of humanity and empathy. It was crowd control. Let's see. He ran security for the World Economic Forum and the Republican National Convention, and liberals are just groveling at his feet right now. It's absolutely mind-blowing. I would love to do a deeper dive on this guy and find out his whole record and everything, but what I'm trying to do is just show the example that I literally just highlighted his name and Googled him, and already red flags are popping up. Like, there's no excuse for not doing this basic level of research on people before you start hero worshipping and groveling. This is why people are so easily manipulated, because they just run on pure emotional input, and they don't look into anything for themselves on even the most basic level. It's just spoon feed me emotion and media. Isn't it also suspicious, or shouldn't it be, that this was all happening on the same day simultaneously from New York to LA, and the entire media was covering it and genuflecting, no pun intended, about these cops?
This is our city! Our city! This is our city, so we gotta make sure that we take care of our city. Because
When are we going to figure out the pattern of how the media manufactures narratives and stories? It's so clear. This is exactly why everybody needs to read books like Edward Bernays' Propaganda and Gustave Le Bon's The Crowd about social psychology. This is just basic shit. The tactics they use to mentally and emotionally manipulate people into ignoring the facts or not even looking into the facts in the first place are so basic that fucking fourth grader could understand them. It's not hard. You just have to be aware of them. You have to understand the game to understand that there's a game being played. But if you have an IQ over 100, you've got really no excuse for being ignorant on this. That's a choice. And just to play angel's advocate for a second, I'm not saying that, like, based on reading this dude's Wikipedia page, that he's like a high-ranking member of the Illuminati or whatever. I'm just saying that there are red flags at the most basic level of research. He could be a decent guy. He's a father of 3 kids. He's a family man. When I watch him hug those protesters, there seems to be real emotion there. He doesn't seem like a cold-hearted sociopath just from watching him. But he's also the highest-ranking member of the NYPD, and you don't get to that position without doing some shady shit, or at least looking the other way. At very least. So I'm just imploring people to use your fucking brain just a little bit before you make up your mind about something. For a real example of an authority figure using compassion and empathy, at least from what I can tell, is a real example. I'm going to link below a story of a judge who actually spent the night in jail with a military vet that he had to jail on a probation violation. I also just wanted to tell you real quick about my brother, who still lives back in my hometown of Memphis, which is a majority black city, and he works in a grocery store in a black neighborhood. And he was working the night shift, and they were there basically to, like, start boarding things up and making sure, at very least, make sure everything was secure. And he said late at night, either towards closing or after closing, like, whole carloads of black people were showing up and just posting up outside of his store. And as he walked out to his car in the parking lot after his shift, one of them approached him and said, "Hey man, I just wanted to let you know that we don't hate you just because you're white, and we don't think that all white people are to blame or that all cops are to blame." And he even actually said, "I wouldn't care if your uncle was the guy who knelt on George Floyd's neck. That's not your fault." He said everyone should be treated and judged as individuals, and we're just here to make sure nothing happens to this store. And I thought that was pretty fucking cool. So
Jackie, hear what you do.